We're going where you want to go so you can be where you need to be. It's Road Gang Radio with Lindsay Lawler and Jimmy Mack on RadioNemo.com.
Bayen, Long Year Bayen, is actually over in Sweden, and it is 818 miles away from the North Pole. It's got a very small population, under 2,500 people, but it is a beautiful city if you actually look it up. It's got people from 53 different countries. Immigrants from 53 different countries live in Long Year Bayen. So that's like going to an international high school in essence for adults. It's like a small liberal arts college or a very, very big high school. It sounds like a groovy place. Never been there. I will look up the town in Iceland, which was one of the European cultural capitals of the world. Reykjavik is the cultural capital of Iceland, not the cultural capital of Europe. I didn't make that mistake, but I was wrong.
You were wrong.
I was wrong. Which, by the way, I admit from time to time.
You were wrong.
I was wrong.
Just leaning in, Jim.
Speaking of right, let's kind of pivot over to right, shall we? A little bit of little rightness here. Would you care to do the introduction?
Oh,
Since
my
we're
God,
talking dream destinations this morning.
I would care very deeply because you know how excited I've been about this interview, this conversation. And okay, first of all, Jim, do you have any idea how many countries you've been to?
Yeah, I do. I do. 21.
Oh, you know? Oh, gosh, I don't know because mine is pretty low. But I wonder if Annie knows her number. But our first guest today, it's Annie McCormick, and this woman is living a life that a lot of people only daydream about. But she's here to tell you that it's actually very doable. So 4 years ago, she sold her house, gave up every single thing she owned, took off to become an international house and pet sitter. She now lives rent-free around the world, taking care of people's dogs and cats while writing books, her passion. She's found a way to marry her passions. And one of her books, by the way, is now a finalist in an international contest in Europe. Her new novel, Runaway Cane, it's a spicy RV on the run, questionable choices, road adventure that she says was inspired by one single line she heard on a Mel Robbins podcast that inspired her to do her life here. She reached out to us and said, guys, you guys are about highways, byways, and caffeinated fuel questionable choices. My book is perfect for your listeners. We agree. I already love her. I spent a lot of hours deep diving, went down the rabbit hole on her Instagram page last night, Jim, and I'm wildly inspired, wildly excited to be her new best friend. So please make welcome to the show, writer and professional global nomad, Annie McCormick. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you this morning?
So good. I'm so inspired by you.
Good. And I am delighted to be your new best friend. Absolutely. We need coffee.
Yes. Let's do it. I'm having one right now. Where are you Where in the world are you? What time zone are you?
At the moment, I am in the central time zone, and I'm in the western suburbs of Chicago.
Bill, how boring.
I know. Now I'd have to think a minute to tell you how many countries I've been to in total, but I did 15,000 kilometers by train in Europe this summer, and I think there were 14 countries that I stayed in, pet sat in, drank coffee in, or rolled through. So if we had been chatting in July, I'd have a much more exotic answer for you.
No, it's good. It reminds us that you're relatable and there's still balance there. So it's still attainable. It's not like you haven't moved to Europe. You've just found a way to be able to be lean and mean and on the scene and travel when you want. So,
yeah.
The thing
is, good. I will tell you, I have an amazing daughter-in-law and a lovely son-in-law, and I don't think either of them were prepared for me as their mother-in-law. I think I am not in any guidebook for how to meet your mother-in-law at all. So, yeah, a little bit different approach to life.
That makes it even better.
I will tell you this too, Lindsay. Annie brings up a good point. The moment you leave the continent, you exponentially begin to increase the number of countries you go to. Like if you go to South America or Europe, you're off to the races because you're often crossing borders and crossing boundaries, and you can really. Like I said, and I have a feeling that Annie thinks about it the same way I do. There's been a couple of countries I've passed through on the way to other countries. I mean, I don't count the plane ride to India. I don't count the countries we stopped over in as places I've been to because I wasn't there. That's a big thing too. Annie, I want to talk about the book because it's actually a journey in two directions. It's not just the journey from the north all the way down to the south in regards to being inside of an RV and trying to escape a problem. It's a journey down as well before heading back up. So you have kind of a double thing that has to play itself through here. You have to kind of follow the movements and the motions of what's going on in the RV, but you've also got to follow the internal life of the people that are driving this story. Can you talk about how you kept those two worlds not straight, but how you actually merge them together, and what the writing strategy behind something like Runaway Cane is putting it together?
It is, and thank you for teeing it up so eloquently. It was a really interesting process because there is that story of discovery, right? And we're all on it kind of every day if you've got any level of engagement with the world around you. And it is a matter of finding those moments of growth, finding those moments of transition, finding those moments of pain, and just kind of the normal day-to-day of your world. I mean, Frank nearly has a panic attack back in the RV out of the driveway, for heaven's sake. So it isn't the big moments that trigger all the emotional stuff. Sometimes it's the small stuff. And so we're right there in the passenger seat with Frank as he kind of navigates big moments and small moments. And of course, narcissist that he is, he makes all of these moments about himself, right? I mean, he's certainly not helping himself any of the way through this. But it is a matter of kind of recognizing all that's happening around you and where you might find moments of insight or struggle.
Really quickly before I turn this back over to Lindsay, for all of our listeners out there, by the way, Annie's book actually has a lot of time spent behind the wheel in a raised piece of motoring machinery with a guy contemplating his thoughts. If you can't get behind that, guys, if you can't relate to that character, I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, our drivers sit exactly to some degree where Frank sits a lot of this book. I'm going to turn that back over to Lindsay. Go ahead.
Well, here's what's so cool and inspiring. I literally, Annie, did a deep dive through your Instagram last night, and it was very enjoyable.
I got really unpleasant text, by the way, all throughout the whole process.
I was like, screw you, I quit. I'm moving. I'm traveling with Annie. I quit everything. I quit life. I looked at my husband and said, get out of here. No, but I really did. Actually, we didn't even watch TV last night. My husband cleaned while I just watched all things Annie.
My goodness.
What's so cool, Annie, is that, guys, what she did at one point that she breaks down, she spent 68 days in Europe and only paid for 4 nights of hotels. I was even, Annie, mesmerized by the idea that you sort of planned so when you were going to be traveling from place to place, you'd take the train so you could sleep in a sleeper car or whatever on the train, and that eliminates a hotel. Like, it's brilliant to do, but I want to talk about that inspiration. But first, did anybody try to talk you out of this lifestyle? Because you come from corporate, as you mentioned, you have a family. Did anybody say, you're crazy, don't do this?
Oh my gosh, no, not at all.
Great.
I don't know anybody that would say that to me. In fact, my kids are like, go mom, absolutely.
Amazing.
And I will tell you, I think when you're handed the gift of a child, you are forever modeling behavior for them, right? And so I'm modeling what this third chapter looks like for my kids. I'm modeling follow your dream. I'm modeling bravery. I'm modeling adventure. So you're never not modeling. And if somebody had said that to me, that's so you just kind of move on. If my kids had paused with it, I probably would have had a knee-to-knee with them and talked about it. But no, it's in addition to everything else, it's modeling next chapter to your kids.
Well, and here I want to say, Andy, because over in the chat, there's a question that just popped up in the chat, which I'm going to read, and I am not slamming Steve for saying this. What Steve just put in the chat is what 90% of people would say, and I would like you to respond to this comment. Steve said, well, if I could afford to, he didn't put well, because that changes it. He says, if I could afford to travel abroad, I would, but time and money are needed. And yes, of course. So how do you respond to Steve, Annie, with all the love in your heart?
Sure, Steve, with all the love in my heart. When my 2 kids were up and doing their own grown-up cool things, I decided it was time for me to do my cool grown-up things. And so I had always had the dream of traveling and writing. And so I began to pick up any decision or opportunity that let me travel or write. and put down anything that was an obstacle or a burden or slowed that process down. Time and money are finite things. All of us only have so much of them. So I needed to figure out how to tackle time and money. And so when you eliminate your house and all the expenses with it, everything from your mortgage to a bottle of Windex, I don't buy those things anymore. I mean, just do some back of the napkin math about what you spend on. Well, I'm watching Christmas lights go up all up and down the street here. Lawn service, the kid that the snow blows your driveway, the stuff you buy for your house, in addition to mortgage and light bills and streaming services and stuff. I have none of those expenses. So it isn't a matter of simply income. It's also a matter of eliminating all of those expenses. So that might address Steve's problem in terms of, I'm not too much worried about the money coming in because I have a massive amount less money going out. Time is simply how and where I choose to spend my time. And I choose to spend my time traveling, and the absence of a house allows me to do that. In fact, the absence of a house forces me to travel because I've always got to be somewhere.
Wow. Well,
does that take care of Steve with all the love in my heart?
That takes care of Steve with all the love in your heart. And then just the quick follow-up is, what happens when you don't have a gig? Where do you, like, if there's got to be times where, like, shoot, I don't have, is that when you go pay for a hotel or stay with a friend?
Very rarely do I not have a sit. I will tell you, I've been doing this for 4 years, and as with anything, you get smarter about it all the time. And I literally can go from sit to sit to sit. In Europe, when I had gaps between sits, I rolled around the country on trains. I tend to not have a gap, in all honesty. But if I do, there's some nights I just love to check into a hotel, man. Close the door, lock the door, big comfy bed, flip on the television, and yeah, I love a great hotel every now and then.
Oh, my
It
God.
honestly very rarely happens.
As Lindsay can tell you, you are now my spirit animal because I love hotels. And my attitude is they ain't got to be. I mean, I like a fancy pants hotel. I like a boutique hotel. I've been to some great ones. I can think of one in Puerto Rico that just wowed me. There've been a couple of stuff in Shoreditch in London that is terrific. But if it's clean and the staff is great and they have a little free breakfast in the morning, I'm home. And just being able to go into a hotel
room. You and me both, man. You and me both. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's just, and part of the thing that's so interesting too, because with the book, I'm going to get back to the book here for a second, guys. With the book is the fact that knowing all this about you, you kind of created a situation where it's like, and every once in a while, I get these little islands of sanity where hotels will pop up or something will pop up. But a lot of this is like you're almost imagining, because, you know, books are about conflict. They have to be. You almost imagine, what if I took my world and put it in topsy-turvy? Because, you know, and I read the book before I actually read the preview notes, because I like to do that. I actually, as I was reading it, was making the comp. I said, there's a little bit of the Big Chill here. And then, of course, that was one of the comps that you make. Can you talk about the way that the road transforms you? Because I feel like both in your own life and in this book, there's a real grasp on what it is to make a journey through physical space and geography and how that changes us as people. And just kind of wanted your thoughts on, from both a positive and negative aspect, how the road and moving through it changes us.
What a question. This is the essay portion of the exam. Frank is really afraid of, like, everyone around him, and he's really pushed out of his comfort zone in the book to make friends or ask for help. He's a bit gruff and cranky. I, on the other hand, tend to go through life assuming you're going to meet more good than bad more often than not. Travel really pushes you out of your comfort zone. You want to be out of your comfort zone, stand on a train platform in Germany without a word of German, and hope you're getting on the train going in the right direction. So I think travel broadens your horizons. I don't think, and I think it might be Anthony Bourdain that said this, I don't think travel is something you do at the end of a life well lived that you kind of reward yourself with. I think travel is something you do through life as education. I think travel teaches you, I mean, everything from different foods, different way to eat, the fact that you don't do, you know, a cappuccino after 11 o'clock in Italy. You're going to learn everything from the big stuff to the small stuff if you allow yourself to be open to it. And whether it's, you know, Frank trying to figure out how to hook up a water system in the middle of nowhere, or me trying to navigate a train in the middle of Germany. It's a matter of being open to the moment, of connecting with someone around you that's more often than not going to be helpful and understand where you are, and that will be willing to teach you something. And what can you do for them? I mean, I cannot tell you how many people you could just tell the lost American tourist here and there, and you just walk up to them and say, can I help you? So it's a matter of being open to the moment you're in, stepping into it and figuring out, could somebody help me with this, or could I help somebody else with this? And what have we all learned from that moment? Frank's not good at being open to the moment, but I, on the other hand, would like to think that I am.
You made me think of one of my other favorite quotes, Mark Twain, that the best cure for prejudice is to travel abroad.
Absolutely.
By the way,
oh my gosh, absolutely.
And the one quick question I had before I turn this back over to Lindsay: is there anything better than when you're in a foreign country and somebody walks over and asks you for directions and you're able to give it to them?
Oh my gosh, those are moments. Those are just the best moments. The only other thing that comes second to that is when you're in another country and they start to speak to you in the local language because they assume you're local. That's a lovely moment when you suddenly feel like you don't look like a tourist, you look local. But yeah, being able to help somebody with directions is an amazing moment.
My Lindsay's husband and I have the same thing in Dublin. People think we're from there. Go ahead, Lindsay.
The Seamuses. So what's really neat too, I love this aspect of what you're doing to get, or what you did at least for the last book to get people involved, and I assume you'll do more of this. Obviously, connection and freedom and adventure are important to you, but getting people involved in the naming of your book series, I loved this because Annie, I'm a singer and a musician in Nashville, so I mean, having audience and people involved in crowdfunding and all that is really important. But you've done something that's kind of like crowdfunding, but actually way better because you're asking people for their time and their commitment to the project instead of their money, which you can do because you found a way to fund your passion and alleviate that pressure there. So talk a bit about that, because I know that piece kind of wrapped, but I assume you'll do this again. You invited people in to your story to help name it, to get a mention in the book, to get to read it prior to it coming out. Talk about why that was important to you, because you want to connect with your readers personally and get them in on the game.
Absolutely. And I, not even in the same airspace as Taylor Swift, but I remember many, many, many years ago, Taylor Swift was a very young, extraordinarily talented artist, and she would invite fans into her home as she was kind of thinking through some songs to get some reaction. And I remember thinking, this is one very smart businesswoman. But so what I did was, as the book was substantively finished, I put a call out on TikTok. So if I wasn't writing, I probably wouldn't do much more social media than the Facebook account we all have, to reconnect with that kid in high school, right? But I've built social media platforms, particularly on TikTok, for the purpose of engaging readers and kind of ideally finding readers. And so let's see, it's October now. So midsummer, I put out a call and said, okay, guys, y'all have been along for the ride as I've written and worried and queried and done all the things. I need a focus group of people who will do a few things for me. I need you to read the book in advance. I need kindly worded constructive criticism. And I would like you to help with the selection of the name and the cover art. And please leave whatever the honest review is, but please leave a review on Goodreads. And if you do those things with me and participate in 3 TikTok live focus groups, then we're going to list your name as a member of Team Frank at the end of the book. And I've been very fortunate to have been recognized in somebody's acknowledgments. And I remember thinking, holy cow, this is like the coolest thing ever. I'm in somebody's book. And so I don't know that I'm the coolest thing ever, but I would like to think folks thought that being included in a book and having their name there in the acknowledgments was incentive for them if they were readers. And so that's what I did. And we did, so the live TikTok focus groups were a little bit like being the sample lady at Costco, right? Because I not only had the people that were there interested in the content because they signed up to do it, but other people scrolling by were like, wait, what's this? And so it was overwhelmingly women. And they were, the comment you made a minute ago, big chill, it was somebody on the focus group that said, this book, Runaway Cane, is the Big Chill meets 50 Shades of Grey. And I did a screenshot of that comment, and I'm like, that's it. That's it right there. And based on their reading, their opinions of the book, their kindly worded criticisms, I made some edits and changes to it. They didn't like the way the book started. The whole prologue of that book is a result of that focus group process with those folks. And then I had a couple options for the cover art. I had a couple options for the name of this particular story, and then to name the series, because there's another book coming out. And as long as people like the book, I'll keep writing them. If they don't like the book, I'll kill them off and, sell the RV. But it was fascinating for me to have, 72 people give me the gift of their time and perspective. And help me polish this, because they're the ones that are going to read it. So it's less about what I want to write at this moment, if you're going to sell a book, than what it is people want to read. So it was an incredible gift of their time.
Well, and it's like choose your own adventure, the people getting to be a part of it. But like you just said, you
Absolutely.
don't like them, I'll kill them off. Like you're writing with, I don't know if you've seen that. What's that movie, Shoot, with Will Ferrell and Emma Thompson, where she's an author? Have you seen this movie, anybody?
I have not. I'm the world's worst at pop culture. Anytime somebody says, have you seen this movie? The answer is just going to be no.
Okay, with this one, Annie, you're going to need to watch, because it's Jim. If you'll look that up, if you don't mind. She's an author, and she realizes, real quick backstory. She's writing, and she's writing about this guy, the character that Will Ferrell is playing, and all of a sudden Will can start hearing her narrating in his head, and he starts to realize that his life is being narrated, and then she realizes finally there's a real person on the other side of the world that her writing is affecting. And as a writer, it will change how you write, because you'll think about your characters differently, I bet. And stranger than fiction.
A little unnerving.
Yeah.
A little unnerving.
Maybe stranger. And then the other thing, Annie, is Trucker Bosun. I'm sorry, 4-Aught over in the comments wants to know, and I know this answer is yes, but you can expand on it. Wants to know if there's an Audible version. I watched you on Instagram listening to somebody read your manuscript, so I believe the answer is yes. Yes, but maybe not.
The Audible isn't out yet. So I'm working with a voice artist right now here in the Chicago area, and we hope to drop the audio version of book 1, ideally by the holidays. I'm not only learning how to write a book, I'm learning how to produce and do all of these things. So everything is taking me 3 steps. I've got to find the right platform. I've got to figure out how to do it, and then I need to get it there for you. So bear with me on the learning curve, but I'm super excited. We've got a great voice to do this. And I asked the focus group, because they asked for an audiobook. I'm like, do you want a woman doing this, or do you want a man doing this? Overwhelmingly, they wanted a man's voice doing this.
Because it was women.
It was
right?
Absolutely. I've got a great voice guy that's going to do this for me, and he can just radiate some of those anxiety-fraught moments that poor Frank navigates. So I'm super excited for the audio. Yeah.
You is, and I don't mean the writing, I mean the character. Frank is not as old as he feels. Seem to be perpetually young, which is kind of a crazy dichotomy as well. I mean, the idea that, Frank is a guy who literally is carrying the weight of the world in a world that doesn't have hope. And I was kind of curious if you're in agreement with me when I always believe that hope really is the thing that makes us the youngest as we kind of march through life, that if we hold on to really genuine hope, and it's about him finding that again as well, is that there's a hopelessness to what is happening in the beginning of that book that permeates it at first, and it's about him kind of finding his way to the other side. Or, well, I'm not going to give away too much because I'm not. But is that kind of the key? Is that why you have found this kind of love of travel and this love of adventures, that you have hopes for what's next?
So I will tell you, sometimes I have a hard time finding the line between hopeful and delusional. That's not
right there with you, my sister. Right there with you.
So many people know, and certainly we're getting into the holiday season, many people know the Christmas Carol, right? The Ebenezer Scrooge story. And I will tell you, the character that most resonates with me in that story is that damn hopeful nephew, right? He comes by, and Ebenezer has
Fred.
Everybody in range, but yet the nephew just kind of comes in and invites him, even though he's insulted the wife, he's insulted marriage. Ebenezer has done his best to just distance himself from the moment. The nephew still says, please come. I believe in the man that's in there. And I go through life, right or wrong, as the nephew, man. It should just say that on all my formal ID. And so I'm really the nephew in the story of Frank. I really hope we can get this pain in the ass to where we'd like to think he can be. That's yet to be determined. But yeah, I'm the nephew in nearly every story. I just am sure that there's a good and a ray of hope in the midst of most moments.
But by the way, Lindsay, I've always come to believe that the best version of Fred is the 35 to 40-year-old version of Matthew McConaughey. You know,
Yeah.
all right.
He's the best version of everything.
Absolutely.
The best version of everybody is Matthew McConaughey. Come on.
Just about, man. Just about. Who says no to Matthew McConaughey?
Oh, not me. My husband's standing right here, and I would tell him that, listen, I do not say no to Matthew McConaughey, babe.
No.
Oh, he said, all right.
Except when it comes to asking you to root for Longhorn football. You will tell him no on that, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Real quick before we lose Annie, we're almost out of time, and I hope to have you back because you're such an inspiration. But I want to remind everyone, and let's leave with this, Annie, maybe some moments of inspiration, because what you've done is awesome, and we can all listen to this interview and be like, wow, that's so inspiring. That'd be great. I wish I could do this, and then we'll turn this interview off and go about our days and never do that, never take that leap. What you've done though is created a way for you to marry your passions. And yeah, it took some sacrifice because you had to make a real leap of faith, sell what you had and go do it. And not telling people to do that necessarily, but leave us with that soul search moment that you took where you were like, I have to make this shift for my own livelihood, for myself, for my soul. What inspired, what is your real inspiration? How can you leave somebody with the inspiration that maybe they could do that too, whatever that is for them?
So for me, there were a couple pieces to that, and I'll be quick here. For me, it was simply the having of a North Star, right? And now remember, I have reared 2 children. I am no longer balancing, a full-time executive job and football practice and ballet slippers. I'm not in that phase of life, and so I've moved past that. So I'm in a different place in life, and I've always had the dream of writing and traveling, and so I had that North Star, and the kids were gone. And this bougie little apartment was empty, and I was just wandering around, and I couldn't place this feeling. It was this weird feeling that I had, and I've learned to become a podcast person, but I was not really a podcast person at the time, and Mel Robbins had just written something, and honestly, I couldn't have told you it was Mel Robbins in the background. I was just putting some, no offense, Mel Robbins, but I was just putting some noise on in the back of the room to take the aloneness out of the apartment. And Mel Robbins said, no one is coming. I don't know what she said before that or after that, but at the end of the day, she said, no one is coming. No one is coming to help you with your finances. No one is coming to help you do X or Y. No one is coming to help you meet your dreams. And at that moment, I recognized that feeling was waiting. And I thought, well, hell, if nobody's coming, then what am I waiting for? And the clarity for me that came with that was tremendous. But it was first and foremost because I had a sense of what I wanted to do, and I realized I was the only one standing in the way of it.
Wow.
Does that help?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I hope everyone listening. I mean, it could also be baby steps toward it, but I think you've mapped out how you actually did it. But it starts with inspiration and realizing, and I'll leave you with this: if there's something that inspires you and that makes you happy, you can do it. You just have to prioritize yourself and making space for it. So Annie McCormick, you guys can head over to AnnieMcCormickWriter.com to find out more. Annie, we would love to have you back. I host a show over here called We Should Write about the healing power of writing. You would be a fabulous guest on that sometime as well.
Oh my gosh, I would absolutely love to do that. You're awesome. I'm going to be in Nashville January, February of this month. So I think we do need to get that coffee you talked about, but I would love to do that. That would be amazing.
Well, you just got booked to come in studio and do that show, We Should Write with me, when you're here in the winter. So I will reach out. You are fabulous. Thank you for your time. Keep inspiring others to live their dreams.